Hey guys, this is Chiwe from One Dog Wolf, and in this video I'm going to show you how I use Lion brand Baby Soft Boucle to make an amigurumi duck. So the duck is this duck. This is made with Lion brand Vanna's Choice, which is a very simple worsted weight yarn, but I also wanted to give it a try using this sort of textured yarn. It's chenille-like, and it has a lot of little loops on a strand, which makes it feel great, and it can hide any mistakes. I'm using a pretty open stitch, a pretty open gauge, and I don't think it's really going to allow a lot of stuffing to come through. But on the other hand, it's very difficult, pretty impossible to see where your stitches are. So I wanted to show how I sort of survived this. Okay, so right here this is at the end of a round. I keep a stitch marker at the first stitch of the round, and I keep a stitch marker at the last stitch of my round. Okay, so I have one stitch at the beginning, one stitch at the end. I have a hook. This is a 6.5 millimeter hook, and I'm actually going to use my seamless join, which is to open this last stitch up a little bit and then remove the hook. I'm actually going to find this first stitch, remove the stitch marker, and then insert my hook from back to front, and then grab this loop and then pull the loop from front to back. And then I kind of always just keep an eye. This is, this was the first stitch of the previous round. And then I'm going to take my active yarn and just pull that loop tight. Then I'm going to chain one and then work into that same stitch that I made the join. And then here, before I finish the single crochet, I'm actually going to just take my stitch marker, go around the back of the crochet hook, and kind of pick up what will become the first single crochet in the round. And for me, that makes it easier because I know what this is going to turn into. And then once I yarn over and complete the single crochet, then my stitch marker is already in place. Now that my stitch marker is in place, basically I have to just use my fingers to figure out where the holes are. And in this round, it's just single crochets in every stitch around, which is really easy. So that was my first one. It's kind of a big hole. Then you can kind of just feel your way through. This is number 2. And then you feel, the holes themselves will be bigger than, there's a hole there, there's a hole there, and you can tell where there isn't a hole, you're just not going to really be able to push your finger through. So you can push your finger through that one and through that one, and then you kind of just guess at where the next stitch is going to be, and then in between it's just going to be harder to feel for. Okay, so that was into this one, this stitch, then the next one, and then you just work your way across, feeling for stitches. You kind of hold on to a place if you're pulling out more yarn, and if you have to stop in the middle, write down what round you're on. Otherwise it's not easy to tell just by looking at it, unlike other yarns where the stitches are more visible. So we're going to keep working around, and honestly, if you make a mistake, it's not a big deal, because if you can't see the right stitch, you can't see the wrong stitch either. Just want to make sure that your stitch counts are correct. So even if they don't necessarily go into the right holes, that your stitch counts are correct. So it's pretty much a bit of a guessing game. Once you do a few rounds, you'll kind of get the hang of it. If you prefer, you can use a larger hook. That'll make the holes a lot easier to recognize and to feel. But if the holes are bigger, that means you'll have a tendency for the stuffing to come out as well. So, you can put the stuffing, you know, inside a cloth. You can make like a cloth stuffed animal inside it if you'd like, but I like to just keep things simple. I work a little bit tighter, even though, you know, it's a little bit harder to work with. I use stuffing that's fairly clumpy. I have stuffing that is not clumpy and stuffing that is, and then for a project like this one, I actually choose the clumpy type so that the little pieces don't come out of these holes. If I ever do have to put this down, I always make it to the end of the round. That's where my stitch markers are. That's safety, that's home base. And then I write down in my notebook which round I ended on, so I know which round to start on the next time. And I actually end it without finishing the round. I leave it open because leaving it open just is more visible to me, instead of knowing, you know, did I do the chain one? Did I not do the chain one? This way I know I have to complete the round and then move on. So I'm here at the last one. This is the second to last. Boom, I'm here, and oh, it happens to have a stitch marker in it, so I know that that's my last stitch. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did at the beginning. I'm going to yarn over, and I have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to remove this stitch marker and then put the stitch marker back in the back loop, you know, the second one on the hook, so the one in the back. So I'm going to put it right through there, because this loop is going to be the top of the single crochet. And then yarn over, and then pull through, and then my stitch marker is in place. It's in the last stitch of the round, and that's actually where I'm going to stop. So I know on the next round I have to work into the first stitch to complete it, do my chain one, and then I can continue. Because if I had already completed it, I think my main problem is I wouldn't know if I've already done the chain one or not. And then if I start frogging, I'm going to lose my place with my stitch markers, so I find this to be the easiest. This is my beginning, this is my end. I use 2 different colors, and that's it. So that's how I work with textured yarn like the Line Brand Baby Soft Boucle.